Welcome to this episode of the Route 281 podcast, where I sit down with recently retired Shanksville School District Superintendent Sam Romesberg. We're thankful for his time today, and we hope you enjoy this episode. Okay, you can go ahead and put your ear muffs on. Pull that mic right up to your chin. Is that comfortable?
Yeah.
Good.
Can you hear me all right?
Thanks for being here.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So you just got back from Florida?
Yes.
You guys are... anyway, I'll do a quick introduction.
Sure.
Anyway, Sam Romesberg, retired school superintendent.
Yes.
From the Shanksville
Stoneycreek School District.
Yeah. And owner of Creekside Designs in Rockwood.
Yes.
You're a Rockwood native.
Rockwood native, lived in the same property that I was born on.
That's awesome.
Same house.
That's awesome.
So.
And now you're a snowbird a little bit.
We are. For
getting
new
your
experience.
feathers.
Just retired in December of
Congratulations.
24. So, well, thank you.
Yeah, that's awesome.
We're still trying to figure it out, but we really enjoy it so far.
Oh, I bet you do. So what part of Florida? Again, I think
We're,
you told me, but...
We're in Bradenton.
Oh, yeah.
You
Just
know,
south of Tampa.
We're here to talk about Somerset County, but Bradenton has a deep-rooted Somerset County history.
How so?
In the sense that there's so many Somerset County residents that snowbird in that area for decades. The place we have, we're proud because it's third generation to own this little place
from Somerset.
My grandparents bought it in the late 70s.
Okay.
And then my parents took it over, and then my wife Ruthie and I took it over from them 5 or 6 years ago. But many Somerset County residents would snowbird down there with my grandparents and parents. In fact, they call it Somerset County Days picnic down there over the winter. And my father used to, we didn't get to go to it this year, but my father told me he couldn't miss it because he said, I see neighbors down in Bradenton that I never see at home. So,
and you have time to
to visit and get out. And
yeah.
So he always enjoyed that. But
a friend of mine, his grandparents had a place down there. And when I think we were about early high school, late elementary. I can't remember now, but we spent some time down there. It is beautiful.
It is. It's a really nice area, and
you're not too far from the beach.
30-minute drive. Yeah. 8 miles, but 30 minutes.
Yeah, that Gulf Coast is gorgeous.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I've been on both sides, and
it's beautiful. The Gulf is very nice. We enjoy that. The sand is incredible, and the water temperatures are great. Yeah. But we're right beside the Pirates training camp too, so there's a lot of Pittsburgh feel to the Bradenton area as well because of the Pirates training camp.
When I was there, as a matter of fact, we went to a spring training game.
Okay.
And they played the Yankees.
Uh-huh.
And George Steinbrenner sat about 5 seats away from us. And I had no idea at the time who it was, but his dad was like, hey, see that guy? That's George Steinbrenner. And I'm like, who? He says, the owner of the Yankees. I'm like, oh, okay. So now, I can say that. That was neat. No, it's nice down there. But, I thank you for coming on. I think I just have some general curiosity about the role of a school superintendent. And obviously I've known you for years now. You've done some of your design work, which we'll talk a little bit about that too, for me. And honestly, I think you were maybe in the art class when I was in elementary school. Did you do any teach art or sub?
I did. When I got into education, I was an art teacher. Okay. And I did a long-term sub at Rockwood. Okay. For Jane Holt. Yeah. On one of her maternity leaves.
I think that's that's probably where we met. Many years ago. But that's cool.
It's funny. I run into many kids that remember me.
Yeah. I'm sure
they were so young at the time, but I love it when people mention that.
I remember it. And so you talk a little bit about just your background growing up, and then what led you into education, and ultimately into the role that you just retired from.
Well, as I mentioned, lifelong resident of Somerset County, of Rockwood specifically. The house I live in was the house I came home to on my first day. In 1965, so steeped in history there with the family farm property, and I was blessed to be raised on the family farm. Wasn't a working farm, just more of a hobby farm. But with my grandparents and my aunts and uncles and cousins, grew up like brothers and sisters with them on the farm. So had a really good upbringing.
What types of animals did you have there?
Mostly horses when we were young. Occasional cows that we'd butcher once in a while.
Right.
We dabbled with hogs once or twice, not too often. But
know where your food came from then.
Yeah. But chickens here and there. But mostly horses. My one cousin was very successful with horse showing. And
horses are a lot of work.
Did that all through 4-H,
Oh, okay. So. Did you show?
Yeah.
Okay. You showed horses?
Showed horses.
Okay.
Yep.
Now, how do you show, my kids showed dairy cattle. I showed dairy, beef, pigs, whenever I was young. Now, how do you show a horse?
Well,
do you lead it or do you ride it in the show?
They have classes for both.
For both, okay.
Mostly riding, but they have lead line and now you're testing my memory. I don't remember the names of all the classes, but they have classes where you lead your horse, and it's all on how you present your animal and set them up. Very similar
to any other livestock.
Yep, like the other livestock, exactly. But then, of course, variety of classes. There's Western or English style riding that you can participate in, each of which are a little bit different style and how the rider handles the horse. And so
I have 2 miniature donkeys out in the barn. So you may hear them on the podcast.
We can give them a try here when we're
if
done.
they decide to bray, you may hear them because these mics will probably pick it up. But okay, so you grew up there.
So I grew up there, and as far as education, I went to college. I really didn't know. I wasn't the greatest high school student. I was preoccupied with a lot of things, and
not a cell phone at that time. You weren't preoccupied with a cell phone.
Absolutely not. No, that wasn't part of our lives.
Probably for the better. The way I look at it.
I think of that mostly when we make long drives, because now you just plug in the GPS and it tells you, and if there's an accident, it reroutes you. When we describe to our kids and to other young students of how we used to have multiple maps and we highlighted things and you had to figure it out, and just a whole different world. We could read maps, we could follow directions, we could read compasses, things like that. That's what we had to rely on.
Right, yeah.
AAA would make trip ticks for you and plot your trip for you. We did that out to Montana a couple
I can
times
remember printing out your map on MapQuest, and now it's like, what?
Right. But, exactly.
Hey, learn to read a map because you never know.
It's true. That's what I tell them. They think I'm a little off base with that, but technology goes down.
You're just a power outage away.
One power outage away. Yeah, one poor cell service away. So
you're ready to go to college? Or?
Oh yeah, went to college. I was artistic as a kid all through school, and had no idea what I wanted to do. So I decided to pursue art. So I got a bachelor's degree in graphic design.
Okay.
And honestly, young, naive, and didn't really do my homework back then. You couldn't just Google it and do research. But anyhow, didn't realize that if you wanted to have any kind of a meaningful job in graphic design back in 1987, you had to move to a city. Well, I tried that. I moved to Washington, D.C., Vienna, Virginia area for a year and a half, worked down there in an office building as a graphic designer, and just did not care for it. Missed Somerset County terribly. So I spoke to my parents, said, care if I sort of end this and head back home and figure out a new path.
Yeah.
So I did, and that's how I got into education. But, like your family, big farming family, I guess if the Romesbergs had a family business, it's education.
Yeah.
I'm a fourth generation educator. Grandmother was an educator at Rockwood. Aunts, uncles, my sister, I have cousins, both sides. My parents were both educators, and quite frankly, my wife's parents were both teachers at Somerset. So education has always been a big part of our lives. And so I don't know, just trying to figure out how to use my art degree and live in this area. I decided to go into art education, and got hired at North Star in 1993 as an elementary art teacher.
Okay.
Then about 2 or 3 years into that, I became their high school art teacher. And then, I've always been blessed. My father was an educator. He was a school administrator. And, of course, his best friends were school administrators. And they were always very encouraging, always giving me advice. And they kept encouraging me at a certain point in my career, to pursue administration. So while at North Star, I had some great mentor administrators there that welcomed me into the fold and really supported me as I got my administrative degrees. And so I became a principal at North Star.
Okay.
And then left there to come to Rockwood for several years as the elementary principal.
Okay.
And then I had an opportunity to I was more high school oriented as far as an administrator. Had an opportunity to work at Shanksville. So in 2009, I got hired at Shanksville as their junior senior high principal. And then the last 10 years of my career, I was superintendent. So at Shanksville. So
you've been in the gamut of the education.
I have, and I've taught at every level, K through 12. I've been an administrator at every level, K through 12. And like I said, it's just sort of in the Romesberg blood.
Yeah.
I'm the third generation to have acquired my doctorate in education. So
wow,
pretty proud of that.
I don't know if you know this, but my wife's a teacher.
Oh, no.
Yeah, she's certified in special education and a reading specialist.
Oh.
But when we had our first, it was a little less than a year, and after we had our first daughter, that we decided that she would stay home.
Yeah.
So that's been great, and that's what she wanted to do. It's what we wanted for our family.
I think that's great. Yeah, family first.
Yeah. She's a teacher through and through.
Yeah.
She's great at it. She taught in a rough spot down in Pittsburgh, just in a school for like alternative education school.
Sure. Yeah.
So with some support staff, which you would need in that situation, but she was. She had earned the kids' respect, and she did a good job with that. And she taught there for about 6-7 years before we moved back to Somerset County.
That's the best way to develop a relationship with those students that are in the alternative ed programs, is to respect them. And believe me, they respond incredibly.
And they reciprocate.
Yep.
And you treat them with respect, and they respected her. She did a great job.
Yeah, I was going to say, it speaks highly of her character, because that's not easy to earn respect in those settings.
I mean, obviously teachers are incredibly important. I don't think they get enough credit, enough recognition. So shout out to all the teachers. Thank you.
Yes, I agree.
And so what was your favorite role in the education system? And now, what year were you at Rockwood as the elementary principal?
I was there from 2005 to 2009.
Oh, okay. So that's after me. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you never had to give me detention or anything.
No.
So, yeah. Not that I did.
Probably would have.
It probably would. Yeah. I always said, yeah, I've been in all the offices.
Yeah. Well,
yeah. What was your favorite?
Those are my favorite types of students, to be honest with you. I call them the ornery ones.
Yeah, right.
They're not bad. They're just ornery. They challenge people, and I both enjoy and respect that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, I think it says something about the education system too. Is there's the way we handle education now, and you can tell me if I'm wrong or right, or if you've seen this, and we'll get back to your favorite role. But it's really not built for everybody.
No.
The way we do education.
Quite frankly, our public education system is antiquated. Compulsory education started, in the 1800s, where it was required for kids. There was a period of time where schools were available, the one-room schoolhouses, but it wasn't required that kids went. Mm-hmm. They didn't have to attend. It wasn't mandatory. Well, then compulsory education came around, and it became mandatory for students to attend. And then, it's grown from there. But, we pretty much, over the course of these centuries of public education, we still have a very antiquated system. Most schools, and we're breaking away from that. COVID had a lot to do with a lot of necessary change. The unfortunate sometimes brings you new ideas and ideas for change. But anyhow, if you're good in math but not in language arts, you still have 40-minute class in math. You have a 40-minute class In language arts, if you're good in math, you might not need 40 minutes, but in language art, you may need 60 minutes. So, we have a very antiquated system. The technology has really exploded the approach to education now too. Yeah. What COVID did is it brought virtual days as part of our vocabulary.
Right.
Where kids can work from home on a computer. And I know there's people that think that's horrible, but I don't. I disagree. I don't think it's a replacement for face-to-face instruction. Right. Nothing beats that.
Right.
But the way we do it now, if the schools are prepared and approach virtual days in a systemic way and plan ahead, it's very effective.
Yeah.
Our kids at Shanksville, each district in the county does it a little bit differently. Mm-hmm. But they, on those virtual days, they sign in. They all have a laptop, a Chromebook. They sign in and do Skype or Zoom with their teachers. They run a full regular day, mm-hmm. And it's hard on the elementary kids because they're not as capable with the use of laptops. But I've talked to a lot of the high school kids, and they prefer it. They'd rather keep up and not miss a day and have to make it up.
Yes.
And then they're playing catch up when they return. Like when we'd miss a snow day, the day after was sort of a catch up day. Mm-hmm. So the teachers are losing a day. Mm-hmm. Honestly, we don't miss a beat. Now,
and with the technology, like you said, you shouldn't have to.
Yeah, and the hardest part is with public education is like you started off by saying that it's really not built for everybody.
Right.
And that's the biggest challenge, is to try to meet the needs of all these individual learners, different learning styles, because, I'm a very hands-on. You and I have talked, you are too.
Yeah.
I don't know how I would have done with virtual learning, to be honest with you, as a student.
Right.
Hands-on, project-oriented, that was more my learning style.
Yeah.
So I don't know how that would be for me, and it's a challenge. But, if you look at the workforce, which is what we have to look at because we're preparing our students for the workforce, mm-hmm. whether it's to go to college, military, either way, that's their next step. It is all so technology-driven. We feel it's necessary to use those virtual days to get those kids in that mindset.
Yes.
And, we don't overlook that. And even in people will say, well, what about the vocational students at Somerset County Technology Center? They're hands-on. Why does a mechanic need to? Well, just go visit SCTC and see the computerized equipment they use in every shop. Yeah. It's CNCs in their housing and manufacturing, building and trades. It's CNCs in their welding. It's high-tech equipment in their automotive. Drafting. It's all technology driven now. And it's challenged us, but it's getting better.
Yeah. It is introducing them to something that they're going to be confronted with at some point. Whatever career field they're preparing for.
Now AI is, just when you think you're getting your footing, something new comes along, and I think that's going to just continue.
Yeah.
AI has really ramped up the push on teaching our students technology, because when you look, I've been to many trainings, many presentations here towards the end of my career of how AI and drone technology is being incorporated into our daily lives. It's amazing. Mm-hmm. And I know people get very frustrated. They still like to grumble that these kids, they just sit on their computer things all day long. They're different gaming systems. I don't agree with doing that all day long. Yeah. But those skills are translating into very lucrative occupations, because they're agriculture. They're spraying now with drones instead of crushing crops with tractor wheels. They're spraying, and they're not harming. It's 100% efficient. They can go out and scan. I don't know how this works, but they can use drones and scan a cornfield and predict what the yield will be at the end of that season based on the different times that they go out. washing windows on skyscrapers, painting sides of ships where guys used to hang off of cables and highly dangerous, and now drones are doing all that.
Yeah.
And
and that's
hard to keep up with.
It is, and it is a challenge for public education. I can see, because there is so many things that you're like, oh, do we focus on this, or how do we direct our focus when so many new things are popping up? Like you said, you're preparing those students for a future, whether it's in technology or education or a vocational technical school. There's so many things popping up, and one of the questions that I have for you is, what's the future for public education and adjusting curriculum to accommodate with the new careers in technology and the way old careers are evolving?
Right.
Are they keeping up with that?
Well, in the last 20, 25 years, when No Child Left Behind was introduced I think it was 2000, that's when all the standardized testing showed up. And we all understand that they need a way to rate schools, monitor schools, see how they're doing, look for the failing schools, and have them make changes or lend them some support and help. And then the successful ones learn what they're doing right and maybe share it with others, that type of thing. But I never had faith in that, and I'm glad that standardized testing is going away. Schools are rated on how well they do. And some of the schools in Somerset County don't always perform the best on those overall rating systems. But yet we have many successful students. We have rocket scientists that are working in NASA.
Yeah.
We have DNA experts, medical doctors, attorneys. I mean, Somerset County is steeped with successful people that came out of our education systems.
Yeah.
So
that's a testament to the people that are.
But you'd asked about what is the future of public education? I don't know if I can answer that.
Yeah.
We're in a really interesting place right now.
Yeah, we are. There's a ton of opportunity, and I think there's a ton of opportunity for the public education system to evolve. And I just look around and I think, the things that people are doing today. Just take YouTubing, for instance.
Yeah.
I mean, teach these kids how to get on and to be creative.
Yes.
And whatever it is, whatever their craft is, just be creative and help them maybe advance that creativity a little bit, like with 100%. Technology and the changes in the career fields are, like you said, so many things with drones. At what point does the VOTech school say, hey, we're going to open up a drone program?
They have one.
Oh, they have one now?
Yeah.
At the Somerset VOTech?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome to hear.
Yeah. In fact, our technology coordinator at Shanksville, he got his drone pilot's license through SCTC. Mm-hmm. So he works with our kids at Shanksville with drones. But they just, Somerset County Technology Center just added a new program for aviation.
Oh, great.
And so there's multiple paths students can take. They teamed up with, I should know this. I don't want to say a name. I have a name in mind, but a Johnstown company that does government contracting has really been supporting SCTC and providing with guidance, ideas, advice, equipment to the students can pursue aviation, like to be a pilot. Yeah. They could pursue an avenue to be a mechanic, maybe go into a variety of aviation-oriented jobs.
Yeah.
And that's a new program that Mrs. Remick has really been working hard with her staff to bring.
Great.
And they're just kicking it off right now.
So when I was in high school, I think once you got into 7th grade, we didn't really have a middle school. You went from elementary to high school. So you were basically grouped A, B, and C.
Yeah.
And, the A class was likely to go to college.
Mm-hmm.
B class maybe somewhere in between.
Yep.
And the C class was likely to be in VOTech or maybe some kids that were struggling or
right.
something. But I chose to go to VOTech. I was, like you said, hands-on, grew up on a dairy farm. I went for welding.
Right.
And the machine shop piqued my interest, so I did both.
Sure.
But I'm just glad to hear that there are new things there, because it's not really the Votech of old.
No. I graduated high school in 1983, and this is an entirely different school system than what it was in the 80s. They've really evolved. They've really improved with the times to meet the needs of future employers, to meet the needs of the employers that are looking for people to fill their jobs.
Is there a way for parents who have kids that may be interested in the Votech school to, and I know they took us there for a visit at some point before you decided whether or not what program you wanted to go into or when, but can parents go out there?
Oh, yeah.
Meet the teachers?
They're very parent-oriented. That's the biggest thing.
And you had some involvement in the Votech program, right? And how
the way a vocational school is set up, Career and Technology Center is, and this is just law. I don't know exactly why it's like this, but like I'm the superintendent of a school district. Karen Ramick has been the director. They have a director of Somerset County Technology Center. So in essence, she's the superintendent.
Okay.
But for whatever reason, there has to be a superintendent of record, so to speak, that sort of assists and helps with the daily operations. More of an advisor, not really hands-on daily operations. Mrs. Remick does all that, and her staff does a great job with that. But anyhow, the Somerset County superintendents rotate and share and take turns serving in that role. And I was fortunate. I was the lucky guy that got. I started as the superintendent of record when COVID hit. Oh. I had a slow start in there, but I'm very hands-on, as an art background. And honestly, if SCTC would have been in the 80s what it is today, I would have gone to Votech for sure.
Yeah.
I would have definitely gone to SCTC.
It's a bit of a stigma that went with going to Votech back in.
Well,
like it or not, I guess, but there kind of was.
There still is.
And that's a shame. I don't know.
It is a shame.
But you look at the career fields available today, and, when I talk to young guys who ask me or question, I'm like, man, go get, it's tough. You kind of have to decide what you want to do at a young age to go into that program, what you're interested in. And I did not get left behind going to Votech.
Right.
And I think it just depends on the individual person. You go there and kind of make it what you want it to be.
Right.
You can still focus on education.
Yeah.
I had no trouble getting into 2 different state universities by going to Votech. It was not a problem.
And that's part of the stigma, is that if you go to SCTC or a vocational school that you can't go to college. Well, that's completely inaccurate. Those opportunities still exist.
Yeah, and there's a shortage, and I think Mike Rowe kind of does a good job with his
Dirty Jobs.
Yeah, Dirty Jobs, and he's got a podcast where he talks. They talk about the industries where maybe there's a shortage of people in those fields like HVAC, plumbing, electrical, carpentry.
There's a definite shortage in those areas.
And for a young person who's goal-driven to go, and if that's your thing, hands-on, and you like that type of thing, and there's a real opportunity for somebody to even start their own business, work under somebody for a while, and these guys can have a great career.
Well, I got sidetracked a little bit, but back to, I said the standardized testing.
Yeah.
When all that happened, the trend in education was college, college, college. They wanted us to convince every student that walked through our doors that you need to go to college. And that's what we did. And in hindsight, that really bothers me, because not everybody's made for public school, number one, let alone college. So I think that's one reason college tuition and expenses have gotten out of control, is so many people went to college. It wasn't really for them, but the schools said you have to go to college because that's what our Department of Education was telling us. And then they, are in debt and never get their degree, and it's just created a real problem. And in that time, the career vocational schools, that path was being ignored because we were trying to convince everybody you need to go to college. Well, thank goodness we've come to our senses, and there is a big push now for vocational careers.
Yeah.
Because of their shortages. Mm-hmm. And, let's face it, my age group is probably the last wave of supervisor level that we're all retiring out right now. Mm-hmm. So there's going to be a big deficit in the next few years. So what a great opportunity for a student to take advantage of. They'll work hard. I think earlier chat today you said you sweat for every dollar. They'll sweat for their dollars, but they're going to make a lot of money. And if they plan right and invest correctly, they're going to come out way ahead in the end.
Focus and work hard, and like if you're dedicated, and there's Somerset County's blessed with I don't know. We've talked to a lot of people, a lot of the industry, local Somerset County industry, and they get a little upset that they can't find workers and nobody has a work ethic anymore. And I'm telling you, just go visit outside of this area. Go south. And nothing against people in the south. My apologies, but I'm telling you, we still have a strong work ethic here. Yeah. And it isn't. I think the biggest thing parents need to realize is it's never going to be what it was like when we were young. Right.
We need to open our minds and help our kids prepare for what it's going to be.
Right.
And I wish I could give you an answer right now of what it is going to be. That's why the kids need their parents' direction and guidance more now than ever. Because the parent, there was a time, day and age where, my father could give me advice. If you want to go this direction, you need to do A, B, and C, to prepare for that and to accomplish that. It's not as easy to plan ahead now because we're preparing students for jobs that don't even exist at this point. Like drones doing everything that they're doing. There was a point in history where, other than a little toy that kids are flying in the yard, we would have never dreamt that it would become this.
Yeah, and that wasn't that long ago.
No,
the advances
and
are
it's
so
changing
fast.
so quickly. Yeah. So we're preparing students for jobs that don't even exist yet.
Yeah,
but till they get out of high school, go through their college years, they may enter into jobs that are available to them then that don't exist right now. Mm-hmm. And when I say jobs, the types of jobs, not availability within a certain field.
Right.
Like I said, who would ever think there'd be such a need for drone pilots?
Right. I
even regardless of what direction you go, military, drones, business and industry, career, technology-oriented drones, engineering firms. It's just
real estate. They're marketing.
Real estate, marketing. Yeah,
they're using it for. Just changing.
And drones are just think of what's going on in the medical field and the advances in medical technology. I can't even pretend to understand what they can do with medical and security, safety, everything.
Just to touch on the standardized test, since it came up as one of the questions on my outline. Whatever, PSSA, T. These kids spend a lot of time. That's one of my frustrations, I guess, with public education. It's not the teacher's fault. I don't even think it's the local school's fault. I just think it's being part of that federal system, like you said. It's necessary, or No Child Left Behind brought this along. And they spend time learning how to take the test. They spend time practice tests. They spend time taking the test. It stresses kids out.
Well, it's called teaching to the test.
Yes.
So you're focusing on very specific skills, very specific concepts, just so the students will do well on the test.
Which makes does that help the kid?
I don't personally. I don't think so. I don't. I know.
So it's like, why are we?
I've never seen any kind of data that supported a correlation between a student who did extremely well on the PSSA and how they succeeded in life.
Yeah.
There's kids that, listen, I know for a fact, I have high school friends and acquaintances and college friends who they wouldn't have done well at all on the PSSA had those existed when we were in school. But they're multimillionaires.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They had other necessary skills that weren't measured by a standardized test.
Yes. And if they don't do well on that test, then they got to go to a program to help them get up to
like
speed.
Remediation and all that. And
I just see it as,
it is frustrating. And honestly, the teachers are victimized by that because, early on their jobs were being threatened. Everybody was afraid not to have their class do well on a test because they thought they'd get fired. That never really happened. But the other thing is the other problem with public education, and I don't care if it's state or federal, it's cookie cutter approach.
Yeah.
So, everybody has to focus on college. Everybody has to focus on now careers and vocational schools. We all have, Pennsylvania's set up, we have 500 school districts. And, it has a lot of local control. And there's a lot of effort to get schools to consolidate and remove that local control. I don't like that idea at all. I'm fortunate to retire out while that's still in place because each community, I explained early on, I've worked in 3 different school districts in Somerset County. Now, who would think they'd be that different? But when you're working in those 3 different, each community has their own personality. North Star had their personality, Rockwood has theirs, Shanksville has theirs. I'm not saying one's better than the other, but different mindset, different approach from a different community.
Yeah.
And we're all related to each other. We all know each other. Now we're co-oping sports with each other.
Yes.
But it's still, there's decisions that the Rockwood board makes that the Shanksville board would never consider. There's decisions that the North Star board does because they have to or because they want to that Rockwood would never consider. Yeah. But I would hate to see that local control go away because then, you understand color and whatnot. You mix 2 nice colors together and you can make a third nice color. Mm-hmm. But if you mix them all together, you get gray.
Yeah.
Or black, and I fear that if we water this down and remove local control, we're individual communities. Because, I'm comparing Somerset County schools. Imagine what the difference would be between, say, the Rockwood approach to things with the local control versus Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Entirely different.
Yeah.
Cultures, entirely different.
Or a huge,
socioeconomic status, different, just so the more we consolidate, the bigger we get, the more cumbersome and inefficient it becomes.
Yeah.
And is it more expensive? I don't know. But I don't know. There was I can't remember his name, it doesn't matter, a representative a number of years ago, Turkey Foot School District was in the court. He was more Connellsville, but the corner of Turkey Foot was in his district. So he was really pushing for consolidation for the Somerset County schools. And he was basing it on Washington County, Maryland. We did our own little research. And you'll have fewer buildings in operation, but you need more people to run those bigger buildings. Mm-hmm. So there wasn't a massive savings like he was trying to make it sound like. But
the current administration, Trump recently come out and said they'd like to turn over the Department of Education to the states.
Right.
What is your opinion on that, and how do you see that playing out, or how does that affect parents and students that become?
I don't know if I can answer that accurately. I don't know what that'll do, because one thing we have to understand too is back to the cookie cutter comment where everything's the same approach. I do think, and there's pockets all through the state of Pennsylvania, like Somerset County, good, honest, hardworking, rural people, simple in the grand scheme of things, respectful in the grand scheme of things. But a lot of the standardized testing, a lot of the initiatives that come out for schools across the state of Pennsylvania, and other states I'm sure, is based on real severe needy schools. Some of the inner city schools of Philadelphia, Erie, Pittsburgh, Harrisburg, they have such need. They have buildings that are literally crumbling with holes in the roofs. And, we're blessed in Somerset County. We have no multi-million. Well, everything's multi-million anymore, but
yeah.
We don't have any Taj Mahal school districts.
Yeah.
Like the Pittsburgh area.
Oh yeah.
You go to those, you think you're in a college campus.
Yeah, I'm so thankful that. Honestly, I went to Rockwood. I'm thankful that my kids are at Rockwood. The teachers are great. There's a small town feel. Before we moved back to this area, we were living in Murraysville.
Yeah.
So, or just outside of Murraysville, but it was in Westmoreland County.
Mm-hmm.
My kids would have went to Penn Highlands.
Okay.
And I thought at the time, this would be good.
Yeah.
Bigger schools, there'd be more opportunities. Now that I'm on this side of it, I'm glad that that it's more personalized in a smaller school. I think when we first started taking our kids to the elementary school, there it was like it's almost private school.
Yeah.
Where we are versus one of these huge schools where they're graduating almost 1,000 kids in a class.
Yeah. Well, here's how I got my eyes opened up a little bit. And when if you don't have family or friends that go to schools outside of the county, how would you know? You have no comparison. But when I went through my doctoral program, I was in a cohort program. So I was with 14 other doctoral candidates. There were a few I was the only Somerset County. There were a few from Cambria County. The majority of them were around Pittsburgh, a few out towards State College, sort of. We went to IUP. And we met once a month for a half a day Friday and an all day Saturday, once a month for 4 or 5 years. So we got to know each other really well over the course of that time. But we would start every Friday that we'd go, once a month, we'd go around the circle and share something good and something challenging that's going on in our districts or communities.
Yeah, it's like you read my outline. I didn't.
Honestly, my cohort, great group of people, we went around the circle, and the very first day, we had to go around and explain our biggest challenge. And I happened to be the last person to answer. So, we're going around the ring, and there's people saying that, they have racial wars going on in their building, and kids are stabbing each other, and there's there was a downtown inner city Pittsburgh school principal in the program who just described the poverty that's there, and these kids have no money for, think of a 14, 15-year-old girl wants to look good, and they don't have money for hairspray and lipstick and all that, so they skip school because they can't, we get around to me, and I didn't know what to say, because first of all, I was totally humbled by what they deal with on a daily basis versus me. They dealt with in a week what I dealt with in a year. Mm-hmm. And I mean that. And I forget what story I shared, but I could tell it didn't go over well. They thought I was being a wise guy. And it took a couple months of class before they sort of warmed up to me, because I think they really thought I was, but I had nothing.
No, the problems that you had.
I had someone write something on a window. I'm sorry, that's all I had.
Kid threw a paper airplane.
And luckily, the head of the program had connections with Shanksville and had been there and was familiar. He didn't say anything for months. Mm-hmm. Finally, he noticed people were just sort of edgy with me, and he said, "I just want you guys to know that I have family in Shanksville, and I'm very familiar with their district, and everything Sam's sharing with you is 100% true." Well, the last day of our last class, 4 years down the pike, by this time, we're all good friends. Everybody's good. But one guy said, "Sam, I'll speak for the group." And he was laughing. He said, "When we first met you, we thought you were pretty much a bumpkin, But he said, over the course of these last 4 years, hearing what goes on in your district versus what ours, I don't think there's one person here that wouldn't trade jobs with you today." And it's a testament to this area.
Yeah.
Because, they had stories where they had an office where every week there were knives, guns, brass knuckles, pipes that were bringing confiscated in our schools, in our public schools, and kids being arrested. It just
yeah.
And listen, we're not
really
trouble-free here in Somerset County,
right.
but we are truly blessed. We don't have near what a lot of our Commonwealth of Pennsylvania neighbors have going on in their communities. And like I said, thank goodness there's lots of pockets like Somerset that exist. But my kids, too, graduated from Rockwood, and I honestly think this is about as safe of an environment, and I'm talking the county, as you're going to find anywhere in the country to send your kids to school. And we all fear what can happen in schools. It's
just like everything. There's a trade-off. That city may provide opportunity, or suburb, whatever.
Yeah.
You know, I know places, family members that live, you know, in Texas, you know, and there's a ton of opportunity, but there are trade-offs. And maybe that education system is one of them.
Yeah.
You know, and we are blessed and fortunate. Like I said, I realized that when I came back with kids. I didn't appreciate it as a kid at Rockwood.
Right, of course not.
But when you have your own kids, they do make an effort to create a community atmosphere.
Yeah.
And it is a small town. They do embrace that.
Sure.
With the programs and things like that they have. So.
Well, and I'll tell you, we're part of Intermediate Unit 8. You know, intermediate units.
Yeah, I've heard IU8. You know.
IU8. There's IUs across the whole state of Pennsylvania. Those exist to support public schools and other schools with services that maybe we can't provide for ourselves. We can't afford a school psychologist, so we use one of theirs. Or they provide a lot of the mandatory trainings that teachers have to do. So we'll contract them to come. We're very fortunate to have such a resource. But, our IU director has dealt with different groups throughout the Intermediate Unit 8. And he's always complimented the Somerset County superintendents for how close we are with each other and how we communicate. Because it's used to have a monthly meeting up at the Somerset County Technology Center, where all the superintendents in Somerset County would gather and just share advice, share woes,
that's a great thing.
What can we do together to, and a big part of that is because all of our kids feed into the Somerset County Technology Center. So we have a shared interest in our students too, because they share a space. Well, then when COVID hit, we started to meet weekly. And we continued that up until, I think, this past year was the first we started to break away from but we met weekly through Zoom every week. And, at that time I would host those meetings. But it'd be anything from just, hey, has anybody gotten this letter from this organization demanding this? Or does anybody know the latest requirements from PDE on this initiative? And we share thoughts and work well together because all our kids are one. Sports is the only place where, to me, there's competition. Other than that, we're all working together for the common good of all of our students. And if a Berlin student needed help with something that Shanksville could provide, by all means, we would do it. And if Somerset, was offering something to Shanksville students, we would take advantage of it. So
that's good.
We're very blessed.
I wasn't aware of that.
Not every community or county is like that.
Yeah. One of the things I was towards the beginning of my list, I asked you about your favorite roles, but what is the role of the superintendent?
That varies a little bit too. I'll use the two extreme comparisons: Somerset versus Shanksville. Largest district in Somerset County being Somerset. Shanksville being one of the smallest, not only in the county, but in the state of Pennsylvania. Actually, Somerset County has 3 or 4 of the smallest school districts in the state of Pennsylvania, right here in Somerset County.
Yeah.
So ourselves, Salisbury, Turkey Foot, Shade.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know. I think I'm missing somebody, but you get the idea. And but anyhow, Somerset, they have more students, obviously, but they have more administrators available to take on different roles. They larger scale, larger need for personnel to help address all these students. Shanksville, we were I had my hands in everything. If our head of maintenance was down, I plowed snow. If our cafeteria was short someone, I washed dishes. And I'm not saying that there isn't any other superintendent in the county that wouldn't do that. I just didn't know if that opportunity would be available to them, even if they did want to do it.
Right.
Whereas it was a necessity at Shanksville and some of the smaller schools. So our roles vary slightly. But to answer you more generally speaking, we're the face of the district. We are a liaison between our school board and our staff, our teachers. Mm-hmm. We're a liaison between our staff amongst themselves, whether it's the head of cafeteria versus head of maintenance, or we're responsible to make sure our state requirements are being met. We're responsible to make sure that we're being financially responsible to our taxpayers. Yeah. We're sort of we have our fingers in a little bit of everything. Yeah. We are a board member, but we're not a voting board member. So, as a superintendent, I was the 10th member of the board, so I can enter into any discussion at any time. I just couldn't vote when the time came. I could give my opinions, give warnings.
You represent the teachers?
Represent the teachers, but also represent the board. Yeah. That gets difficult in contract discussions. Now, Shanksville, we've always had a very, very good relationship with our teachers. So it was never contentious, but it can be, because the superintendent and the solicitor sort of cut in the middle there. Mm-hmm. Liaison to every district has a solicitor, or legal counsel that helps them with decision making, and so sort of have to make sure everybody's communicating properly and on the same page, and you have to walk a fine line sometimes, because especially like a teacher's contract negotiation. Do I think our teachers deserve everything? Yes, but we can't give you everything. You know what I mean? So I had to find that fine line between how far can I push the board to give them what they deserve, but on the other hand, still be financially responsible to our community and not overpay people. So, did you sort of the bit more of the business end of a school system is, and I had a very good business manager, or he's still there, which was incredibly important because finance is a big part of any school. Yeah.
So you're there to run it like a CEO, like a business in a way.
Yeah. And that was my role. I was sort of the chief executive officer of the Shanksville School District.
Takes a good leader to be a school superintendent, I would imagine.
Well, I hope. I hope I was a good leader. Definitely had to rely on a situational leadership approach, because especially since COVID, things just changed so rapidly. And with technology, it's changing so rapidly. You have to adjust to each situation. It's harder to do a 5-year plan than it was 10 years ago. 10 years ago, you could sit down with your staff and probably project a fairly predictable 5-year plan. Mm-hmm. Now, we still shoot for 3 to 5 years, but it could change from year to year.
Yeah. I don't go to enough school board meetings. I think we should. I think it's maybe there's not a ton of new information at every one, and I talked to a former school board member, said people only come when there's a problem, but I don't think that should be the case. And this just came to me while we were sitting here, but why wouldn't, and maybe you do this, have you ever broadcast a school board meeting in a place where people don't have to actually come to the meeting?
Just some places do.
Yeah, I mean, put up a camera and let us
tune into the channel. It's not as common in this area. I know the Pittsburgh districts do it all the time.
I would think that'd be a fantastic way to get that out to parents, because people are busy. There's sports. I mean, I got 3 kids in 3 different sports. It is tough to find time to go, to make extra time. I'm not saying that I wouldn't tune in to watch the next day or what happened.
Right.
Throw up a camera and video the public session, record it, and put it out on your school's district page, your website.
Yeah, that's up to each board.
Right.
Whether they do that or not. It's not mandatory.
I think it might get more people involved, and I don't know whether that's good or bad thing.
I don't know if that's good or bad. Because sometimes you almost have to be there to feel the room too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we did that over COVID. We opened it up like that, and there's Robert's Rule of Order that we're supposed to follow when we're doing any of those meetings. And when we did have it open, people would just chime in, and when they shouldn't, and it can be challenging. Yeah. But the board member mentioned that people only come when people are upset. I can't disagree with that. Yeah. No, I can't say that's the case all the time.
No, correct. Yeah.
And I would encourage parents to go to one a year. You don't have to go to every school board meeting. Just go get a feel for your board members, your administration, if you don't know them. That's the beauty of Shanksville. It's very small. And spending 15 years there as the principal and then the superintendent for 10, if someone needed something, they just showed up. We had an open door policy. Mm-hmm. Our boards, I'm very proud of our school boards at Shanksville. Always had a student-centered, students-first approach. Very few arguments. Very few. We work things out amicably and respectfully. Mm-hmm. There's horror stories of board meetings going till 1 a.m. That's not healthy. There's honestly, any meeting that goes an hour or more, you have to wonder how efficient it was and how productive it was in the end. Because if it's organized and prepared properly and everything, you saw the horror stories across the state and across the country of what was going on with board meetings of, during the COVID period and after that. And once again, we're blessed here. I've not heard those horror stories in Somerset County, but
we have many blessings and some challenges here. One of those being snow days, which is one of the things I wanted to ask you about. Because as parents, we get the phone call or the automated message, but that has to be challenging because you have the safety of the kids in mind as probably number one. I would imagine working with the transportation system. Making sometimes, I would imagine, down to the minute calls on some stuff like that. So talk about that a little bit. And I can't imagine that everybody's happy with every decision.
Absolutely not. And that's even amongst ourselves, like our superintendent's group. We're not always happy with what others are doing, but we have to try to work together to provide the safest. It all boils down to safety.
Yeah.
There's been times where we have called off school because of what the weather was, and by 11 o'clock it looked like it does outside right now. Gorgeous.
Yeah.
And then we just sit there the rest of the afternoon with our heads down. But no, the way that works is each morning, we constantly, everybody has their own weather resources that they follow. So on a typical winter day, maybe before school even let out, superintendents would be emailing or texting, what do you think about the weather tomorrow? Or it'd even go as far as, a front's moving in, or anybody going to cancel their evening activities, practices, games, forensics meets, anything like that. So we would start even the day before many times. Then we would all agree that, let's give it till about 7 o'clock in the evening, and then we'll talk as a group and see if the weather's changed or not. Meanwhile, each superintendent's calling their township supervisors and any local resources in their community to say, hey, what's it like? Because there's been, in my mind, when I was younger, when we got bad weather, the whole county got bad weather.
Yes.
Now, weather trends, it changes each decade. It seems like North went through a period where they weren't getting anything, and everything, all the southern county or other southern districts in the county were getting hammered. Mm-hmm. Well, then it flip-flopped. When I first started at Shanksville in 2009, I'd leave Rockwood and it'd be horrible. Mm-hmm. And I'd get to Shanksville and if we had 4 inches on the ground, they'd have 1.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that changed over the years. Now I'd leave here with 1 inch on the ground and go over to Shanksville, there'd be 6 inches. So just north and south seems to be a big challenge. So, but we try to stick together as much as we can because of the SCTC students. Because some go in the mornings, some go in the afternoons. Some schools,
that creates a challenge.
about half the schools, a little less than half go in the mornings, and then the rest go in the afternoon. And what would kill us at Shanksville and Myersdale and half of Somerset, because they sent 2 groups, is delays. We had so many delays, and each time we would delay, that would be a day out of class that our SCTC students couldn't make up.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not an easy decision.
Yeah, I can't imagine it would be.
And, so much of it is on the timing of when these fronts hit while the buses are on the road. Like I just mentioned earlier, there's been times where, we've been on the road, we made the wrong call, but then once we got them here, the weather was beautiful.
Right.
But, we all agreed, we'd all rather get nasty phone calls and some direct comments about our decision making, knowing all our kids are safe.
Yes.
Rather than to send them into something that could potentially lead to an accident or harm to the students. So that's just something we had to grow tough skin with. And I didn't get beat up at Shanksville. The community was great.
That's awesome.
You always have your 1 or 2, but that's okay.
Yeah.
And
you can't make everybody happy all the time.
Can't make everybody happy, but we try.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing I'll say about the county. I know people get frustrated about transparency and what are these administrators doing in the schools and how could you make that decision. I can wholeheartedly, without question, say that is an extremely caring group of people.
Yeah.
They care about their students, they care about their staff. We're not going to make the right decision every time, and that's whether it's weather calls or how much you charge for a basketball game. You just have to make a decision and move forward, or you'll make no progress if you don't make decisions. So it just goes with the territory.
Right.
It's part of being in a leadership role.
Yeah.
And if we make the wrong decision, we learn from it, we adjust, and we try to make a better one the next time.
Yeah, I didn't realize, and which makes total sense, but I guess how much you're in communication with other superintendents over decisions like that.
Daily. In the winter,
we
speak almost daily based on the weather.
Yeah, that's great.
And, just like this year, the weather wasn't. I was in Florida, so for most of it. But from what I was told and what I've heard, it was the timing was so bad. It wasn't necessarily that the whole day was a horrible weather day, but these fronts were coming through,
persistent.
While the buses are on the road, whether it's morning or evening, those are the worst times. And that does seem to be the case. You'd hear a weather front would be coming through at 1 o'clock. Well, why does it have to come in at 1? Why can't it wait till 4 and come through?
When I was in school,
it rarely worked that way.
We used to get out early. You'd get out. It doesn't seem like that's the case anymore. Like it seems like they're really trying to get away from letting students out early, if at all possible.
Well, and a lot of that has to do with the way the weather has
changed.
Now, I don't know. A couple of years ago, it wasn't even the weather; it was the cold temperatures. Mm-hmm. And that didn't affect us in the afternoons as much as because it would warm up through the day. But when you're asking a student to stand out in the dark in sub-zero weather, sub-zero temperatures, those poor elementary kids, they'd come in just in tears with their hands hurting because they were, even if they had gloves on or whatever. And, that just, believe me, every superintendent, every principal, every teacher pays attention.
Yeah.
Very close attention to that.
In my opinion, with the technology that we have, we went through this with COVID. I don't think we should have snow days. And I don't know there's logistics that I don't understand from the teacher side. But if we're prepared, it should be a FID day, they call it.
Yeah.
Every one of them, because now they're going into the summertime, and just eliminate that.
Yeah.
Get the day in. There's no reason they can't be taught. And I get it's different for every probably grade and age.
Yeah. Well, and the reality is, like the way we used to do it, there were no FID days. You missed a day, then it got tacked up. You either lost, Easter break or something like that, or it got tacked on to the end of the school year. So more so end of the school year. I mean, there were times we had 6, 7, 8 days tacked on to the end of a school year.
Yeah.
Those are not productive days at all. The weather's gorgeous. Oh, yeah. Everybody's mindset is on summer, getting their summer jobs, going to the military, getting prepped for college, summer courses if they were taking them. There was no education. Very little education was going on those last 4 or 5 days that we were making up. At least now they're getting some level of instruction.
Right. Yeah, they can get their class work, their home, keep that.
And I'm not going to say it's the same level of rigor that they have in face-to-face instruction, but it's better than those 5 days at the end of the year where everybody's playing games and watching movies. And
today's day and age, you can get a whole college degree online.
You can.
And so there's no reason.
Well, and COVID has brought where you can work entire occupations online from your living room.
Yeah. I haven't figured that one out yet as a contractor. But
Well, the contractors are one of the careers that they said that robots and drones.
Yeah.
I
guess that's
drones are different. Robotics is amazing too. For example, BMW I think uses they look like humans.
Yeah.
But they're robots.
Yeah.
And they if in their assembly line, taking an oil pan off of a pile, putting it on, a robot can do all that because it's repetitive.
Yeah.
Repetitive. Ooh. Okay. Sorry. Being a contractor where it's not repetitive.
Nothing's the same.
Measure twice, cut once, they don't see that affecting those types of plumbing, carpentry, those types of fields, roofing. But assembly line jobs, they're and you think about it, they now have these robots down to where, at first they thought it'd be $1 million a robot. Mm-hmm. Well, they have it down to like 30 or 40 grand a robot.
So you're going to see a lot more of them.
You're going to see a lot more of that. And yes, is that taking assembly line jobs away? It is. But there's people that have to design those, build them, manufacture them, so engineers. There's a sort of a different type of an assembly line.
Coding.
Yeah, so it's taking it out of one pocket sort of and putting it in another. But
to that point, I guess the classes offered K through 12.
Mm-hmm.
I just not talking about VOTEC, but just in the district at the school, I see a lot the same things being taught, which is necessary. I'm not saying it's not, but just say a person who maybe isn't into home ec, and I get you have to staff another class and another teacher, and that's probably the logistics behind it, and the challenge of it, but should there be other options? So, okay, parents say, you know what, I can sign out of home ec. I'm not, my mom's taught me to cook and bake and sew at home. My daughter loves home ec, by the way.
Right.
But anyway, could somebody say, hey, you know what, I'm going to sign out, but I want to go check out this intro to robotics class or an intro to something that is more tailored to the things that are today.
They have those opportunities now.
Okay.
Usually the middle school years is when you'll have those they're exploratory classes. So they'll rotate maybe every 9 weeks, home ec to wood shop to computer science to business, library, that type of thing. I do think that's important to expose those kids to those, even though, you might have a kid that says, I have no interest in home ec or family consumer science. But once they do it, they're like, I love this. Yeah. And I've seen that enough. That's the whole purpose of it. Right. Let the kids explore. But then by the time, that's 7th, 8th grade. But then 9th grade, they get to choose electives that they like.
Right.
They're not required to go into, you don't have to take home ec at that time. Yeah. You can choose something else. You go the FFA route, you go to, it's not wood shop anymore, but you know what I mean, tech arts.
Yeah.
Now STEM too. STEM's a whole different new newer, not new anymore, but
I think.
But yeah, they have opportunities through electives, and
that's good.
Now there's online electives too. Kids can take foreign languages online. There's a lot of courses they can take online as an elective, which is an alternative to a course they may not be interested
in. Yeah, that's good because just more options for them that are going to pique their interest in something that they want to do in the future.
And that's where early on you asked about the future of public education. We're going to have to, it's called mass customized learning. Where on a massive scale, large volume, students can customize their learning programs.
Yes.
Colleges, to me, have gone a little too far into that. You know, my oldest is 31 and youngest is 26. Even when they were going to college, you know, when I went there, they'd say, okay, you're going to be a graphic design major, so you need, they told me my whole 4-year course plan right there. Mm-hmm. First semester, first year, you'll do this. Third semester, second year, you know what I mean? It's not like that anymore. We'd sit down and say, okay, what major do you want? Oh, we'll help them figure that out. They have all these exploratory courses they can take, and I don't even know the new terms for all the different new courses they have, but they customize your degree now in colleges, many places. It's not as prescribed as it once was.
Okay.
So, and once again, we have to keep up with that in the public schools. So, you know.
Yeah, and I think that's what I was looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mass customization of your
You're going to see more and more of that.
Yeah. That's good.
And, you know, even now, there's more and more, you know, we talked, I don't like the idea of consolidation, but I think it eventually may happen. But we do share services and share classes more so. We you know, it used to be just co-oping sports between school districts. You know, Shanksville's co-oped with Shade for years with football until Shade's numbers went down, and then we co-op with other schools. Mm-hmm. But we're doing that with courses now too. You know, especially with the teacher shortage, like any science teaching job, there's hardly anybody available.
Wow.
You know, years ago, I'll make this number up, but let's just say there would be 100 new chemistry teachers come out of colleges in the state of Pennsylvania in any given year. Mm-hmm. Literally 2-3 years ago, they were down to 1 or 2 graduates to teach chemistry available to the whole state. So as people were retiring out, there's nobody there to replace them. Yeah. So schools have been, you know, maybe one district has a teacher, then they host another school. It has to be online.
Yeah.
You know, but or sometimes the teacher will teach 3 days in one district and 2 in another, and you know, the alternating days that school would follow online. But we've had to become very creative and resourcewful.
Yeah. Well, at
Shanksville, we called them hybrid positions because they were not your typical teaching position. And I'll tell you what's hurting schools the most right now isn't even the teaching shortage as much as the support staff. Yeah. We can't find custodians. We can't find cafeteria workers, bus drivers. And if you can't get them to school and you can't feed them when they're in school and you can't keep your school running and safe, that's a problem. Yeah. So those are very important and crucial roles within a school district, and we're having the hardest time finding people.
Oh, yeah.
Which is why I mentioned earlier that I would plow snow. I would, you know, and listen, I say me, that's everybody in our district. Our principal would mop floors. I mean, you name it.
Yeah.
We did what it took. It was all hands on deck. No jobs too small, no jobs too big.
That's true. And I'll tell you that we pray over our school every morning and over the bus drivers, all the teachers and the staff and the students there in the building. And just because, it's necessary. And we, you know, and I think it's a lot of families in the area that we live in, you know, we're blessed to have people who appreciate those jobs. And appreciate teachers and appreciate the people that are doing that. And I hope that you do appreciate that.
Well, and you think of a bus driver, safety first and foremost.
Yeah.
You want your kids safe to and from school.
Absolutely.
But, as much as we're talking about how blessed we are here,
yeah,
we still have our problems. There's still dysfunctional families. There's still child abuse. There's still neglect. There's still a lot of mental health that's not being addressed issues. And every job is super important. Think of a bus driver. That's the first face every student sees every day, and it's the last face they see when they leave.
Yeah.
So to find a good quality bus driver is just more important than anybody. It's not just some guy or lady that shows up, gets on a bus, and gets your kids somewhere. It's very crucial.
I still have relationships with some of the bus drivers that I had when I was young, mostly because they put me in the front seat right behind them.
I wonder
why. They
say
say because I got in trouble, but I think they just wanted to talk to me, and they liked the jokes that I told them.
But no, those rules have changed because, man, you don't know what a kid experienced at home before they got on that bus.
Right.
And you don't know what fear could be in their heads when they get off that bus. So to see that friendly face saying goodbye, have a good night.
Yeah. And that's
so important.
That's the part of the teaching, I think, that maybe they do, maybe they don't teach you that when you're getting your teaching degree. But to be a person where that kid comes in, you really don't know what they dealt with.
Yeah.
You're a smiling face, a safety net for these kids.
Yeah.
And
I'll tell you, because of the shortage, and it's not just in teaching, it's law enforcement.
Yeah.
They're watering down the requirements needed, the levels of training to be able to become a law enforcement officer. They're making it easier and easier for people to become a substitute teacher. It used to be pretty difficult. Now, it's not that hard to become a substitute teacher. And just because you can take a few courses, or even if you could go through a whole 4 years to become a teacher. We started off that, school's not for everybody. Teaching is not for everybody. There are CEOs, I guarantee you, in our area or anywhere out there that run multi-million-dollar corporations and do it very successfully and very savvy. Put them in a classroom, they may not survive.
Yeah.
But it goes both ways. There are a lot of teachers that are just phenomenal and perfect for their role working with students. They may not survive in a corporate world, so it's not one-sided. But teaching takes a special type of person. And to any of you ladies out there or gentlemen who have been a 30-year kindergarten teacher, God bless you, because those are the most special people in the whole school there.
Right. Well, you
watch what goes on in a kindergarten classroom, newfound respect for that teacher.
100%.
They're
amazing.
Started
out teaching reading, writing, and arithmetic. Well, now all of a sudden you got to teach these kids how to behave, and that's where I get frustrated. That's where parent involvement comes in. These kids should go to school knowing how to behave.
Yes.
And I realize we're sending them to an environment as a young kid that isn't really ideal for them. They're sitting under fluorescent lights, made to sit still in a desk.
Yeah.
That sounds like torture to me, honestly.
Yeah.
And that's a challenge. But just basic respect and kindness and that to me isn't something that the teachers are there to teach. Now, when you have to teach the kid how to behave, now that's a whole nother challenge. And the other kids that are in that class, and that's where public education is different, because you got kids in that class that are well behaved, are respectful, are there to learn, understand what the goal is of the day, and sometimes it can. The behaviors of others can take away from that learning experience of the kid who's there.
Well, that's the hard part of public education, that does. There are students that their behavior distracts the whole. It only takes one.
Right.
One student can really upset the productivity of a whole entire classroom, and especially as class sizes get larger because there's fewer teachers available and money's an issue. That one student can disrupt the education for a whole group, for a whole school year in the elementary, So that is a challenge.
And that's something that...
And those students that we keep saying aren't behaving.
Yeah.
Behavior's good and bad. It's not just when you get in trouble. That's not behavior. Right. Behavior is when you're doing well and you're polite. That's a behavior. It's difficult for a teacher to manage all those different behaviors, good and bad.
Yes.
And it's also, there's more and more challenges. There's more students with emotional needs than there once was. I don't have an explanation for that. Yeah. It's a societal issue. It's a systemic issue. So, yeah, kudos to the teachers. They would tell me all the time when, like over COVID, so many decisions to make and uncharted territory, and the teachers would always say, I don't know how you do your job. And I look at them, I'm like, well, I have done your job, and I don't know how you still do yours because you guys are doing
patience.
Great.
Yeah, patience. And I give one more thing that I think I wanted to touch on, and it's probably fairly nuanced between each district, but now that I know how much the superintendents talk to each other, school safety, the safety measures taken to keep students safe from other students and from outside threats also. How has that changed, and what could be done better, or what have you seen just in your time as a superintendent there at Shanksville? Like,
it's changed drastically. It really has. We talk all the time of, when I was a student at Rockwood, we had a shooting range in the basement of the school. Yeah. And kids would walk through the hall with .22s and flintlocks because we had teachers we had a shooting team before rifle teams became established in this area. But, kids would bring guns to school, and you put them in teachers' closets or in the principal's office, and then, we had a club period where you'd take a .22 down and shoot .22s. And we had a teacher that was, two teachers that were very interested and very good with black powder, flintlocks, and percussion. So it was nothing to see that. Kids had weapons in their cars to go hunting after school together and things like that. It's a whole different world now. And, I get frustrated because, money's always tight. And when community starts to say, well, why do you need so many principals? Why do you need, you're administrative heavy. The role of administrator has changed immensely. An administrator from 1985 didn't have to worry about safety trainings, getting bulletproof windows, metal detectors, security cameras. That all takes time if you're going to do it right. And
now resource officers.
Exactly. And, it's just, but that has changed our world immensely. And it's hard because we rely on state police to train us. We rely on agencies that specialize in school safety to come in and train us. We rely on our local law enforcement or our municipal police to train us. PDE puts trainings out about school safety. They're not all the same. One will tell you to put a number in a window so they can see it from outside. Another one will say, don't do that. Very challenging. And, we're pretty much all of them, though. This is something that frustrates the communities, and I get it, but have faith in us, I guess is what I'm saying, is transparency was a big word in the last few years, that communities didn't feel schools were being transparent. Well, we're not supposed to share our safety plans in detail with the community, because how easy would that be for someone to get it, study it, and then work their devious motives around our safety plan? So no, we're not going to be very open with sharing that to the community. Yeah. That's very intentional, and that's part of a plan. But communities like, you won't even share what you're going to do. Well, no. Yeah. But they don't always understand or agree with you. Yeah. And but school safety, listen, Shanksville of all places has learned the lesson that who would have ever thought a plane would have gone down in their backyard? 3 miles from the school. Right. No one ever would have thought that would happen to any place. Right. It just happened to be Shanksville. But so the lesson learned there is never say never. We are in a safe place. One of the safest communities, I think, is available. Right. But doesn't mean we're shielded from violence and crime. And
yeah.
So it is a challenge. And we talk a lot. I said we talk weekly, the superintendents. There's a lot of talk about safety.
Yeah.
Doors being locked, and how do you guys do this? How are you doing that?
And the differences of even getting into the school now has changed. For a parent to pick up your kid, and which is great.
There's the downside to our wonderful little community.
Yeah.
Safety was escalating in each district that I worked at as time has gone on. Last 20 years, everybody wants their school to be the safest place on earth. I wanted my kids in the safest school on earth. But the moment we took the necessary actions that we were taught and trained to do, then parents and the community would say, it's like a prison in there, and that's ridiculous. I don't want my kid going to prison. Well, you can't have your cake and eat it too. And we struggle to find that balance. How can we keep it as safe as we possibly can, but not turn it into a prison setting? And I don't know that there's any good solid answer for that.
Yeah, and most things.
And it is a challenge.
There's pluses and minuses
to everything.
Pros and cons, and so.
And all I can say is, administrators are far from perfect, but please trust us. We don't want to go into a safe environment every day at work either. We want to go home alive.
Yeah.
Selfishly, we want to return to our families as well, but we want every person, I don't care if you're a student, a cafeteria worker, or a visiting school psychologist, we want you to enter a safe environment and return to your families in the evening. And we would have no reason to cut corners or to make lax decisions in those types of things.
And every district is going to be different.
Has to be, because our buildings are all different. Mm-hmm. Some were built with vestibules that you could sort of use as a holding tank. Someone walks in, you're in a vestibule, then you go into the office. Some don't have that. Mm-hmm. It's just direct, right into an office.
And each school has to address the needs that it has and the challenges that it has.
100%. And they're unique, Each one is unique.
I forgot to do this at the beginning, but this is your gift.
Oh, well, thanks. So, I appreciate it.
Yeah, those are just for the guests. So
it was worth the chat just for the hat. That's great.
Whenever you see, some other guys walking around with that hat or gal, you'll know
they were sitting in my chair at one time. Well, I appreciate you offering me this opportunity.
Oh, I'm so glad you did it. Like I said, I have my own curiosities about things that come up, and I don't know.
Well, I guess to close, I would just encourage parents to not wait till they're upset to go to a school board meeting.
Yeah.
Don't wait till you're upset to talk to your superintendent. Especially in this area, everybody's approachable. They really are. Yeah. And I don't know of any of the administrators that have a closed door, make an appointment only type of an approach to things. And tell us the good. Yeah. If we do make a change and you're happy with it, let us know that part too, because we don't hear that part.
Yeah.
We're going to hear when people are unhappy with the change, and understand that you've said it several times, we can't make everybody happy. We have to do what's best for the majority.
Right. Well, like you said, we're very blessed to live in the area that we live in, and the school districts, I believe, in Somerset County are doing a great job. And I think we're realizing this now more as parents. Now that students are co-oping sports, you get a little bit of an insight into the school district maybe you wouldn't have otherwise.
That you wouldn't have otherwise.
Yeah.
Correct.
And that's been a little bit eye-opening for me to see how these other districts care just as much for the students that are coming from another school district into their program, embracing them embracing the families, whether it's sports, and now to hear that you can even co-op into some classroom programs is awesome.
The other thing is it's the school's job to provide a free and appropriate public education to all the students. There's as we said earlier in our chat, so much has changed so quickly with technology and availability to things. Parents need to step up and help their child plan the next step, probably more now than ever, because it changes so quickly. Schools try their best to keep up with that, but we can't. Parents just can't turn it all over to the schools. Yeah. If you want your child to succeed, you have to have a vested interest the whole way through.
Right.
And we've had parents ask things of the school that we just couldn't do. They went ahead and did it on their own, and it was very successful. And we were very proud and pleased with those parents for taking an interest in their own children and going beyond what we could offer. Yeah. We can't offer everything as much as we'd love to. So. I guess I'm just asking parents to really show a sincere interest, because you only get one crack at this as a parent.
Yeah.
Because your kids grow up so quick.
It goes fast.
And I was in education long enough, and I was at Shanksville long enough. I got to see, a whole cycle, pre-K through 12, graduate out, and you really develop a relationship with those kids that most can't understand. They're not our children, but we treat them as if they were. Yeah. And sometimes when they're having a bad day, it's hard for the teachers not to fall into that slump too, because they care so much at times. Yeah. So there's more of a personal connection than people would want to think.
Yeah, and you don't appreciate, and this goes for anything, but you don't appreciate what you have until you don't have it. And so,
it's true.
Step outside of this area and take a look and see what's going on in other education systems.
Yes.
And you may come back to say, wow, I really appreciate what's going on in Somerset County with the districts.
And you'll see places that offer a lot more, but you'll see a lot of places that don't even come close. So, you're right.
That may present a different challenge that we don't face.
Yeah. And listen, kids are wonderful. I don't care, you hear older community members say, these kids these days, they're great. They're creative. They're smart. There are very hardworking kids out there. And when people say, well, we can't find any workers, that's because all the kids with initiative, all the students with initiative already have jobs. There's a lot of students that work.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they have successful jobs. That's why they're not available to other employers, because they're already successfully employed or gainfully employed, which many times leads from a, school-time summer job to full-time employment. And they're have faith in our kids. We're not as bad a shape as some may think. We have a lot being offered to us. We just need to pay close attention to it and understand they have a different world. They didn't have the same experiences. Like, students don't know how to read an analog clock because they have never experienced that in their lifetime.
Right.
It's all been digital.
Yeah.
They don't know how to use a push-button desk phone because they never had to. It's all been a cell phone.
It's all on your cell phone.
I mean, seniors now are old enough now, they don't know what a wall phone is because they've never had one in their home.
Right.
So it's not their fault.
Right.
It's just the way their life is. And people get frustrated that kids can't even handwrite notes these days. Well, if I have a choice of handwriting a note or typing something quick and hitting print, I do that because it's more legible, and our world has changed and they're changing with it. Yeah. We just have to understand that they get it.
Right. And you have to change along with them. The system has to change.
We have to change with them. Employers have to change with for years, a lot of industries would offer a 15-minute smoke break. Well, how's that different than offering a 15-minute technology break? I mean, kids don't smoke as much as they once did, so I don't understand why the concept of giving a smoke break is good, but, give a kid 15 minutes on their phone and they'll probably be on it less during their working hours if you give them that opportunity. Yeah. But, so employers have to change with the times too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But well, I appreciate you leading the way for so long, and just fostering a good education system and supporting the teachers and supporting the kids really ultimately. And your message, for parents to just be involved and stay involved, I think is really important.
Yeah.
And one that I would echo for sure. And we do our best on our side of the aisle, but
parenting is an important job. It really is.
Maybe the most important.
It is. And, I know there's a trend in our society now where kids aren't leaving home. But, I have two girls. They both live out on the West Coast one in California, one in Utah, and you know what? We still parent them.
Yeah.
Still parent them. They're always going to be our children.
Yeah, and you foster that the whole time.
Whole time.
That, yeah, from
never ended.
Yeah.
And
you create that environment as a parent when they're in your home.
And I'm now starting to see their behaviors and the way they run their lives based on the way my wife and I raised and taught them, and it's a proud moment when you get to see them as an adult act. I hope that's a good thing, acting like you. But
in most cases, right?
You know they've paid attention and listened, and you know you've done your job when they're making good, sound, sensible decisions on their own, and then just call them to say, "This is what I did. What do you think?" You know, that's a good feeling.
Well, happy retirement.
Thank you.
Congratulations, and like I said, thanks for coming and doing this. I hope that it's insightful for people who just may be generally curious about the role of the school superintendent. And I think it's encouraging to hear how you guys are working together, and I've definitely learned something. And so just tell anybody about any social media where they can, or creeksidedesigns.com, where they can go and find your business.
Well, I'll tell you what. Just look me up.
Sam does a great job with decals and signs.
I've done signs for 30 years on the side, and I finally have time to put more time into it.
Check it
I'll
out.
Be advertising. Let's put it that way. I'll be putting my number out there more and more.
He's done some good work for me.
Not quite ready yet, but if you need any kind of signs, we're in Rockwood. I've done banners, truck lettering. I've done that for 30 years or 35 years at this point, and still intend to do more of it in retirement than I did when I was working. So
good deal. And now you'll have some time.
Yep. We'll put time into it.
Sam, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right.
I appreciate it. Great experience.